Poignant! Good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. Yes, it's Loving Life, and we're back. And guess what? We actually got this type of live stream to work. I'm so excited by that. Now, guys, tonight is going to be a very, very interesting night, and I think there are going to be some pretty shocking things that are going to come out of this speech that Ramaphosa is going to be giving tonight. The big question is there going to be a lockdown in South Africa? This was denied last week by the government, but we'll wait and see what happens. Now, what we're doing right now is waiting for Ramaphosa to pitch up. According to Anchor and SABC, he should be live in the next 30 minutes. So rather than be late, hang on a second here. Sorry guys, I just got a call coming through. Okay, I'll just respond to that. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. So, with the lockdown, if we have a lockdown, I think South Africa is going to go into chaos, because how can they lock down townships like Alexandra, and think of Soweto, sprawling Soweto. You got 10 families. I believe Ramaphosa is on live right now. Okay, so let me just see if I can find out where. Because certainly with Anchor, they're showing him as not on yet. Alright, if any of you guys can see Ramaphosa on anywhere, please just let me know. But according to Anchor, he only comes up in about 25 minutes or 20 minutes. Alright, let's get back to this lockdown. If Ramaphosa announces a lockdown, it's going to be hugely disruptive in South Africa, especially with the economy. So I just can't see it happening. Having said that, I really don't know how he's got any other option when you consider this sort of behavior that took place just a few days ago in Durban. Okay, you get the idea. That's the craziness of South Africa right now. People think the coronavirus is a big joke. Now, I'm going to cross to where Ramaphosa will be talking. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Some of the leaders had not at the time had an opportunity to speak and to express themselves, and this being a national challenge, it's important that all political parties should be seen to be working in unison together in ensuring that we address this challenge collectively as a nation. And this has then given rise to this opportunity. And after they have spoken, we will also have an opportunity to get business leaders who we have also been meeting to also put their thoughts and their views across. We are fortunate as a nation that we've got a lot of people who mean well for the people of our country and our country indeed at this trying and challenging time, who want to put forward views and thoughts and also the support that they would like to give to the government as the government is leading this very, very difficult process of making sure that we safeguard the lives of our people from coronavirus spreading throughout the country. So I give the opportunity to Ntateli Kota, who's standing right in front of next to me.
Fellow South Africans, this is the time for patriotism. And patriotism is about the love of your country, the love of your people. Whether they vote for you or not vote for you is irrelevant. We want the people of our country to survive. And we really want to add our voice to what the President announced on Tuesday. It was a decision that, having been everything having been considered, the President had...
All right, guys, I think this is actually an earlier live stream that they had, but let's listen to this because it is very significant. I think he's still going live at 7:30.
Action by the peoples of different countries, and we just want to add our voice. Let us carefully consider what the President has said, and let's every one of us try to the best of our ability to implement in keeping with those directions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Inko Subteleze from the IFP.
Thank you very much. We, as the IFP, do support our President for the strong leadership that he has provided in this matter, together with the Minister of Health. And we appeal to all people of South Africa not to panic, because our government has all systems in place to make sure that we respond positively to this pandemic. And our plea is to every South African to cooperate and do everything that the President has said that we must do. And also I'd like to appeal to every citizen of this country, those who have domestic workers, to adopt families of those workers and make sure that they've got sanitizers, they've got gloves, they've got masks. That is our contribution, our very small way to make sure that together we fight this pandemic. And I want to conclude by saluting our women in white, our doctors, our nurses, healthcare workers, those who have put themselves at the forefront of this war to protect the citizens of this country. We are together in this. It's a time for us to unite as a country. God bless Africa.
Okay, guys, we'll just concentrate on the live stream. That was actually an earlier speech by Ramaphosa with some of the leaders. Now, getting back to this lockdown, clearly the lockdown would have a huge and devastating effect on South Africa. And as I said just now, I can't see how they can enforce it in places like the townships. I think they've got a huge problem now because clearly we've got over 402 cases of the coronavirus now. Just bring that up so you can have a look at where it's at. Give me a second here. Okay, here we are. This is the current state of play with the coronavirus, the official state of play. Over 400 cases confirmed, over half of those in Gauteng, 100 in the Western Cape, and 60 in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, the problem area is going to be Gauteng, because, you know, once you've got that cluster in, you just it's just right through the community. So that's the situation. 402 cases of coronavirus. These are actually identified cases of coronavirus in South Africa right now. Okay, let me get back to here. Now, this is a good time to do a plug for the painting that's been auctioned. I know a lot of you guys have seen this painting, been shown on live stream before. It's one of the big five that's always behind me up here. Two of the other paintings have already sold, one for 20,000 Rand and the other for 5,000 Rand. This one currently has a price tag of 10,000 Rand. That's the minimum bid for it right now. What makes this one particularly special is that Jason Bartlett has said he would be happy to sign it over here if the winner wants it signed. Jason Bartlett is the fellow who's walking across America intending to meet Donald Trump in a few weeks' time. And clearly that piece of art with his signature will be hugely significant when you consider that Bonnie Hutt, the artist, is the granddaughter of Mavis Hutchinson, who ran across America back in the 1970s. She was the first woman to run across the whole of America, and she now lives in Cape Town. She's 95 years old. Alright guys, let's get back to where we're at. I'll just make sure that we're still waiting. It's saying 20 minutes to go before Ramaphosa comes online. Right, now we've got well over 100 people here watching at the moment. Let's ask, or let's survey, how many of you think that Ramaphosa is going to announce a lockdown? If you think he is, say 1. If you think he is not, say 2. Yeah, I saw that Wallis, the army has been put from peacetime to wartime. Absolutely incredible, isn't it? In fact, I've got an article here that I'd like to read to you because it's quite relevant to what's happening tonight. And we've got a bit of time for that. Oh, well, I think everybody thinks a lockdown. I think you're probably right. But you see, they can actually make it a selective lockdown as well. What they can do is they can lock down, for example, the Eastern Province or parts of Gauteng or things like that, depending on where the outbreaks are. Okay, so let's just hear what the latest news is. As President Cyril Ramaphosa prepares to address the nation on Monday evening, the Health Professional Council of South Africa is calling on him to declare a national shutdown to avoid a crisis. The President will update the nation on whether the measures he announced last Sunday to contain the spread of coronavirus or Covid-19 were bearing fruit. With more than 400 people in the country testing positive for Covid-19, the HPCSA called on Ramaphosa to take more drastic steps. HPCSA President Dr. Kokosi Letlapi said, "This is a state of emergency. You cannot have normal rules applying." Letlapi said a lockdown was necessary. "We are hoping rather sooner than later. Provinces like Gauteng with a high number of infections will go into a more serious mode of reflection. A lockdown is better earlier than later," he said. He said an early lockdown would help prevent the spread of the virus, but one implemented late will deal with containing an epidemic that would be out of control. Well, in my point of view, I have to tell you, I think this virus is out of control in South Africa. For those of you who think that the virus is out of control in South Africa and that 400 figure is way lower than it should be, please type 1, and if you think it's not out of control, type 2. Let's see what you guys think. That's my email address, just so everybody has it. Alright guys, according to Anchor, we'll be going live in about 15 minutes. Right. Yeah, I think the general consensus is that the virus is out of control in South Africa. Now, let's consider this fact. Okay, we've got a perfect storm, really. We've got winter coming up, which is the weather that the virus loves. We've got a public health system that is completely cactus. We've got the townships where you've got everybody cramped into a small area, and then we've got things like HIV and TB, which are going to dramatically lower the immune systems of the black African population. So this is a hugely problematic issue for South Africa uniquely. I would say this is unique to South Africa. I don't think we got 1-2 when it came to is this out of control in South Africa. So I think the general consensus, it certainly is. That is hugely significant. Alright guys, we're down to, according to Anchor, 15 minutes. Now, I'm going to replay that little video clip that I had up earlier, if I can find it. The one of the people singing Corona, Corona. Where is it? It's here somewhere, but it's gone in hiding. So we'll have to go without that. Okay, the Achilles heel, as far as I can see in South Africa, is the taxi industry, because as I've said before, you've got 20 or 30 people in a confined space for 20 minutes. They can wash their hands as many times as they like, but if someone's got the coronavirus and they're breathing on other people, that's the end of it. You know, you're infecting a whole lot of people. It's that simple. Anyone got any comments or thoughts on that particular side? Because it's incredible that they're shutting down the hospitality industry while the taxis are ferrying something like a quarter of the population every day in a very unsafe environment. Yeah, Cornelius says, hi Scott, I believe there are much more than 400 cases. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so we're down to 13 minutes, guys. I think we might cross soon, because they normally cross before he actually starts. So we should be getting quite close now. Yeah, Henny, I've heard about the movie Contagion. It's quite interesting, the number of things that are just coincidentally happening with regards to this coronavirus. Like Event 201, which was held 4 weeks before the coronavirus basically broke out, and that was held by the Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the John something Foundation, and the World Economic Forum. So it's quite extraordinary. They would actually have a special sit-down think tank about what to do in the event of a pandemic just weeks before the coronavirus actually came out. Kurbis says close to 2,000. I would say probably 10 times that, Kurbis. I'd say that probably about 20,000. I think that what the government is not telling us is that there are now clusters, and they know about them in townships because of people getting pneumonia and stuff like that. Yeah, actually, Alan, I saw that letter from the president earlier. I did actually put a video up about that. But I think what's happening is you've got these clusters, and you've got groups of people now presenting themselves with what appears to be pneumonia, but it's actually a result of the coronavirus. And I think that might be something that is raised tonight. Yeah, Jacko, I totally agree. Yeah, I saw that, Henny. Okay, 10 minutes to go according to Anchor, so we'll just see what happens. We had a false start this morning, and that was embarrassing, my gosh. But you know, when you're trying new things on YouTube, you do tend to have little issues that come up from time to time. Thank you, P-Sung. I do try and always show the truth, despite what other people might think. Yeah, Jethro, I think that there's a huge possibility that the ANC government will lose control of the country. It could fall into anarchy over this, and I've been saying this for a while now, because you know the African population, they have no respect for the law. We've seen that time and again when you look at the roads, you look at buildings being burnt. There's a lot of anger amongst the African population, and I think rightly so, because they were promised so much by the ANC when they came in 25 years ago, and they've done absolutely nothing, which is quite extraordinary. Yeah, it was, Jaco. We had a nice chat for about an hour while we waited for Ramaphosa to appear. We know where that went. Okay, here's another question for you guys. If the coronavirus goes absolutely rampant throughout the community and you know it becomes out of control, do you think that South Africa has a big chance of falling into anarchy? If you think yes, say 1. If you think no, say 2. And of course, let's consider that the South African police service today is such a joke. I'm not saying all the police, some very good police, but growing number who are just they're criminals, and they're wearing the police badge. Strongest says, Scott, if the ANC did absolutely nothing, it might be been okay. They destroyed what was. Okay, at this stage we've got a kind of split between, now it's starting to move towards total anarchy. Interesting. Now, just talking about that, I hope you guys have prepped, and I hope that you've also got a plan B, because you need a plan B. Because when the proverbial does hit the fan, it's not going to be pleasant in South Africa, believe me. I'm actually here in Australia in self-isolation. I've been in self-isolation basically now for over 2 weeks, just because I know this way I cannot get the coronavirus. And you know, in Australia, which is a very stable country and it has a very good public health system, all the states have gone in lockdown. You can't actually fly from one state to the other now. Qantas have basically shut down their airline. If you travel from one state to another by road, you've got to go into quarantine for 14 days after arriving in the other state. I mean, these are extraordinary policies that are being brought in. That's good to hear, Kobus. Banana Boy says, got any spare rooms, Scott? I've only got 1 bedroom in this house. My house is full of my stuff. Jethro says, get out of the city while you can. Yeah, well, that seems to be the consensus of a lot of people. So, Otto, what's your plan B? Now, that's a very good point, Steve. Don't tell the world that you are prepping, except for your family and close friends, because, you know, if you tell neighbors and stuff like that, guess what? When they run out of food and they're really hungry, they're going to come knocking at your door. That's a no-brainer. Okay, according to Enco, we've got 5 minutes to go before we go live, guys. So let's see if Ramaphosa pitches. Jethro says there were 1,000 cases in February. Are you talking coronavirus in South Africa, Jethro? That's a good question, Pisang. I don't think the government are telling the truth, and I think the reason they've put a huge censorship on people in South Africa about talking about the coronavirus is just to control the narrative. And the fact that Ramaphosa is making the speech tonight kind of tells a very different story to the official number of infections that the government says they have. Okay, I think we're going live now. Okay, let me just cross to this. I think we're just about to go live, guys. So we're going across to... I'll leave it there so that you don't miss anything, but we can just talk in the meantime. Yeah, I don't think Hippo Eyes has got a spine, quite honestly. Which show is he live on, Etienne? He's not speaking yet because Enco have got it. They're ready to go. Okay, look at, he could go live any second now, so let's just, well, it's 2:28, so apparently it's going to be about 2 minutes. Please remember to like this video, guys. Please click the like button down below, and please remember to subscribe. We have some fascinating live streams on the Loving Life channel, and we also carry a lot of news on here. You're lucky, Marco. Marco says I'm lucky because my farm is 20 kilometers from the nearest town. Well, that is lucky. I'll just see if the other one that I've got has got it live yet. No, they haven't. Okay, so we'll just stick with this one because we know that they are definitely covering the speech. Yeah, Cornelius, you certainly do need a President Trump in South Africa, that's for sure. Swakopmund, that's in Namibia, isn't it? Wow, the anticipation is killing me. I don't know about you guys, but here we go, I think. Yeah, Enca's very good. They actually disconnected their live stream for this morning after it didn't happen. Okay, I think it's about 30 seconds to go, guys. I just not talking much because I don't want to be talking when we go live. Banana Boy, that's a very good question. I would come back to South Africa if there was another state run by the minority groups, but I certainly wouldn't come back to South Africa as it is now, no. I'd probably be arrested at the airport anyway. Okay, we're on 7:30 now. Has anyone seen any other live recordings of Ramaphosa arriving at the venue or anything like that? Because Enka is still showing this image, but we have moved into live mode. So, Jaka, he is shitty himself. He's totally screwed the country up. You know, he really has. Well guys, while we're waiting, remember to subscribe to the Loving Life channel, and remember to ring the bell and click all to get all the updates, and please remember to like this video, because we're having we'll have a very interesting discussion after Ramaphosa has actually concluded his address. Well, it looks like Ramaphosa is late again. Wow. Hope he's not like this when he goes and visits state leaders. I think you're right, Crix. I think there could be lockdowns, but I don't think it'll be right across the country. I think it'll be in particular areas that he's going to lock down. And for those who haven't prepped, it's going to be a very, very difficult time, I can tell you. Very, very difficult time. Okay, we're still waiting, still waiting, still waiting. Yeah, I think you're right, Jaka. I think that the fellows from China have told Ramaphosa this isn't a game. Thanks, Mikkel. So, he hasn't come on live yet. Well, well, well. Why are we surprised? Oh, well. Nico says, I'm on an island called Madeira. All flights cancelled, but I'd honestly rather be here than in South Africa at the moment. I'm intending to immigrate here in ±5 years. Yeah, look, it's going to be very difficult in South Africa. I have to tell you that here in Australia they're taking this extremely seriously. They're suggesting that our unemployment rate, which was 5% before the coronavirus appeared in Australia, is going to raise to about 15%, in other words triple. And they're also suggesting that that'll be about 1 million Australians who are going to be out of work. Okay, so Andre says Afrikaans radio also going to go over when he starts his speech, still playing music. Alright, so we know that we're just waiting for hippo eyes, so it is what it is. Jethro, you've studied political science warfare. That's very interesting. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about this virus being deliberately introduced to weaken the economies of the world and to basically allow the New World Order, which is the super rich, you know, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the George Soroses, to basically take over the world with a new currency. What? They said 9 p.m. Oh my gosh. That's in 90 minutes. I can't believe that this guy is... This is ridiculous. Yeah, Jethro, the Rand is definitely going to go to junk. There's no question about that. Hi Andre, good to see you here. We're just waiting for Ramaphosa to get a bit of backbone and give the speech that he's kind of backing away from. Yeah, I've heard of NEEF. That's very much like BEE, isn't it, Charles? Yeah, Pisang says, have you seen the locust outbreak in the world? It's very interesting what's happening in the world today. It's disturbing because it looks like it's almost biblical times, because in the Bible they talk about plagues of locusts and things like that. Ezekiel, I've just hidden you from the channel. We don't need you promoting other channels, okay? Yeah, it's funny how some of these channels try and bait people from other channels. It's quite extraordinary. Yeah, don't worry, Mikkel. I've hidden Fizekio from the channel, so she won't be any problems anymore. Yeah, that's right, Jarko. Vitamin C. Vitamin C. Prep, prep, prep. Ah, so that's like triple B double E, Charles. Yeah, well, that's what's happened in South Africa too. Yeah, Willem says get money out of the rand. I went from 30,000 to almost 34,000 in 7 days due to a weak rand. Well, if people had put into gold when I suggested, wow, they would have just about doubled their money by now. Yeah, bad things are happening worldwide. It's interesting because another theory that's coming out is that China has deliberately infected the world with the coronavirus, Johan, because while they were in complete lockdown in places like Wuhan, they were allowing people to fly out of the country to Africa and to America and to Australia, which basically got the virus infecting those countries. So it was almost like it was staged. I don't know if they made it, Henny, but I do feel that there is some substance to the fact that you know, the Chinese government allowed it to escape and infect other countries. I think that when you look at how hard they came down on their own people, it's a huge point of difference. Yeah, Lance, you need to stock up on some grog, mate. You need to stock up on some grog. Thank you, Francois. That's very nice of you to say that. RK says the collapse of the world's financial system is hidden either with a world either with a world war or an epidemic, so that the collapse can be blamed on something else than inept government. Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen in South Africa with the rand being so weak, with Moody's clearly about to put it into junk, and with the coronavirus, I mean, it is the perfect storm. The economy of South Africa is going to be completely crippled. Cornelius said, "Hi Scott, did you hear what Malema said? He wants to confiscate hand sanitizers because it's becoming too expensive. I think the fleas are infecting him. He should take care of that hat of his." No, Johan, I don't know anything about that Silk Road agreement with Italy and China. Yeah, Jethro, you're right. I was the first one to come out about the coronavirus way back in January. And I think I'm a bit of an expert as a result, even though I'm not a doctor. My gosh, have I learnt a lot about this virus. Yeah, actually, guys, just Jethro's raised a very interesting point. He says, get cash out the bank now before it's too late. That's a very, very important point. If you've got money sitting in a bank account or like on a credit card or something like that, if you've got a credit balance or you've got money in the bank, my suggestion is that you actually withdraw the cash and have the banknotes and have lots of loose change, because clearly with a lockdown, you never know what's going to happen with Eskom. When Eskom goes down, you can't use your credit card, but you can use cash. So a very good idea to have cash on you in times like this. Okay, so we're now getting close to 7:45 p.m. and apparently that's what Anchor says he's going to go live at. Thank you, Nash. That's very kind of you. Yeah, Clara, that's a risk that if they break in, they break in, you know. 007 asks, what would happen if this sets off a civil war? Well, if this sets off a civil war, I really believe that these groups like Boer Legion, ULA, Saitlanders, USAF will, and they have to get together, and they have to form a region in South Africa that they can defend for the minority groups, because I think the civil war will be black on black. I don't think it'll be, well, they'll certainly target whites for food and stuff like that, but I think the actual the violence will be in the townships. I think it's going to be absolutely catastrophic. It's so tragic that the South African police service have been run down to the level they have. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, Jan, that's because they know that if the credit cards are compromised in some way, they can at least then use the banknotes. Yeah, I know, Richard. It's not on Anchor yet. I've got that ready to go. I think we'll just stick with this because you know, you never know with Ramaphosa. I might terminate the live stream, and the next thing, bang, he's up. You know, it's crazy. Ben says, now this is interesting. Been to private hospitals and chemists in my area. Very secure and health conscious. On the other hand, I was also in a few townships yesterday, and what I saw was very worrying. No cares. Have you heard these groups singing Korana, Korana, Korana as if it's a joke? Yeah, Jarko says a civil war will decimate the black population. I totally agree. Even more than the weak immune system and supply chain withhold no food for the masses. Yeah, look, a lockdown is going to create a huge amount of anger. And it comes back to the L factor, guys. You know what I'm talking about here. There's no connection between cause and effect. If I do this, that's going to happen. It's just not in their brains. They have no idea of this. So if they're unhappy about something, they just go and they protest and they riot and they do what they do. They're going to destroy their own townships. That's what they're going to do. I mean, it's just clear that that's going to happen. Yeah, that's right, Karat. I've got a video of that where they're singing that in the pool in Durban, and you know, it was just a big joke. They were cheek to jowl. There was no social distance between them, and just so reckless. Candyman says, you have a president who is spineless, jellyfish, bag of hot air. Since his swearing in, he has promised to bring corruption to an end. A few weeks later, he is involved in a 500k rand scandal. Now, I have to tell you that I don't believe anything Ramaphosa says. Not a word. He just says things that sound nice, but you know, he really hasn't got a handle on what's going on in South Africa. And it was interesting because we had that live stream, I think it was last night. Yeah, last night. And clearly, that fellow who was a lefty fellow, he agreed that Ramaphosa is totally out of his depth, and that's why South Africa is failing. Yeah, Johan, that's exactly what's going to happen. Once they run out of food, it's going to spill over to our houses. Well, guys, we're past 7:45, and it's still not happening. Well, let's just keep on tracking on, because there's not much more we can do. I guess what I could do is just show you that Ushaka video. Let me just see if I can find it. Okay, where are we? Yeah. Okay, this is the Ushaka video that someone was talking about. Have a look at this. Let's go back to where it starts. Okay, here we are. This was in a Durban pool just a few days ago. Now, I don't have to say much about that, do I? I mean, it's just totally ridiculous what's going on in the black community. That was just a few days ago, and that's why I say I have no doubt that it's infecting a large number of people. At Lanseria Airport yesterday, were you out there, Just Ned? Yeah, did anyone see that that one of the taxi. Let me see if I can pull that one up. The taxi, the guy cleaning her hands. Let's just get that. It's quite humorous, actually. See. I think this is the one here. Let me have a look.
We're going to move on. We're going to move on to
Actually, this is quite interesting because this is about the taxi ranks, and you can see the lack of understanding that they have in the taxi ranks. Let me just get that up. It's really quite an interesting little video. Here we go.
My name is Sabena Mashego, and I'm reporting for the Boxback Advertiser newspaper. We are at the Eastern Mall taxi rank, and as you might guess, we are here to discuss the pandemic, the so-called pandemic, the coronavirus. The president, of course, has recently announced that gatherings more than 100 are high-risk places, and I mean the taxi rank is one of those places. So we're just going to ask some of the commuters what they are doing to keep themselves safe, because it's a highly risky place. Starting with Mama, one of the commuters who uses taxis to and from work. We're just going to find out from her what she does, to keep herself safe. Mama, welcome, Boxback Advertiser. Of course, you're talking Corona. Mama, what do you do to protect yourself in a taxi environment?
Okay. Me, I think if maybe the government can provide us with the mask or something like spirit mental, and then we can put on our hands, and then that means if someone touch me, so it's not gonna come to me.
So currently there's nothing that's protecting you, nothing you're using to keep yourself safe.
No, there's nothing, because there is only the mask. Those, they say we must use it. So it's only the mask, and then something that mental spirit that we spread on our hands. So that means like, you can use they say we must use the water, and then
and have taken responsibility for changing their behavior. I am heartened that every sector of society has been mobilized and has accepted the role that it needs to play. From religious leaders to sporting associations, from political parties to business people, from trade unions to traditional leaders, from NGOs to public servants, every part of our society has come forward to confront this national challenge. Many have had to make difficult choices and sacrifices, but all have been determined that these choices and sacrifices are absolutely necessary if our country is to emerge stronger from this disaster. Over the past week, South Africans have demonstrated their determination, their sense of purpose, their sense of community, and their sense of responsibility. For this, we salute you and we thank you. On behalf of the nation, I would also like to thank the health workers of our country, our doctors, nurses, and paramedics who are on the front line of the pandemic, as well as our teachers, border officials, police and traffic officers, and all other people who have been leading our response. Since the national state of disaster was declared, we have put in place a range of regulations and directives. These regulations have restricted international travel, prohibited gatherings of more than 100 people, closed schools and other educational institutions, and restricted the sale of alcohol after 6 p.m. We reiterate that the most effective way to prevent infection is through basic changes in individual behavior and hygiene. We're therefore once more calling on everyone to wash hands frequently with hand sanitizers or soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Stop shaking hands. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing and sneezing with a tissue or flexed elbow. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. Everyone must do everything within their means to avoid contact with other people. Staying at home, avoiding public places, and cancelling all social activities is the preferred best defense against the virus. Over the past week, as we have been implementing these measures, the global crisis has continued to deepen. When I addressed the nation last Sunday, there were over 160,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide. Today, there are over 340,000 confirmed cases across the world. In South Africa, the number of confirmed cases has increased sixfold in just 8 days, from 61 cases to 402 cases. This number will continue to rise. It is clear from the development of the disease in other countries and from our own modeling that immediate, swift, and extraordinary action is required if we are to prevent a human catastrophe of enormous proportions in our country. Our fundamental task at this moment is to contain the spread of the disease. I am concerned that a rapid rise in infections will stretch our health services beyond what we can manage, and many people will not be able to access the care that they need. We must therefore do everything within our means to reduce the overall number of infections and to delay the spread of infection over a longer period, what is known as flattening the curve of infections. It is essential that every person in South Africa should adhere strictly and without exception to the regulations that have already been put in place and to the measures that I am going to announce this evening. Our analysis of the progress of the epidemic informs us that we need to urgently and dramatically escalate our response. The next few days are crucial. Without decisive action, the number of people infected will rapidly increase from a few hundred to tens of thousands, and within a few weeks to hundreds of thousands. This is extremely dangerous for a population like ours, which has a large number of people with suppressed immunity because of HIV and TB, and high levels of poverty and malnutrition. We have learned a great deal from the experience of other countries. Those countries that have acted swiftly and dramatically have been far more effective in controlling the spread of the disease. As a consequence, the National Coronavirus Command Council has decided to enforce a nationwide lockdown for 21 days with effect from midnight on Thursday, the 26th of March. This is a decisive measure to save lives of South Africans from infection and save the lives of hundreds of thousands of our people. While this measure will have a considerable impact on people's livelihoods, on the life of our society and on our economy, the human cost of delaying this action would be far, far greater. The nationwide lockdown will be enacted in terms of the Disaster Management Act and will entail the following. From midnight on Thursday, 26th March, until midnight Thursday, the 16th of April, all South Africans will have to stay at home. The categories of people who will be exempted from this lockdown are the following. Health workers in the public and private sectors, emergency personnel, those in security services such as the police, traffic officers, military medical personnel, soldiers, and other persons necessary for our response to the pandemic. It will also include those involved in the production, distribution, and supply of food and basic goods, essential banking services, the maintenance of power, water and telecommunication services, laboratory services, and the provision of medical and hygiene products. A full list of essential personnel will be published in due course. Individuals will not be allowed to leave their homes except under strictly controlled circumstances, such as to seek medical care, buy food, medicine and other supplies, or collect a social grant. Temporary shelters that meet the necessary hygiene standards will be identified for homeless people. Sites are also being identified for quarantine and self-isolation for people who cannot self-isolate at home. All shops and businesses will be closed, except for pharmacies, laboratories, banks, essential financial payment services, including the JSE, supermarkets, petrol stations, and healthcare providers. Companies that are essential to the production and transportation of food, basic goods, and medical supplies will remain open. We will publish a full list of the categories of businesses that should remain open. Companies whose operations require continuous processes such as furnaces, underground mine operations, will be required to make arrangements for care and maintenance to avoid damage to their continuous operations. Firms that are able to continue their operations remotely should do so. Provision will be made for essential transport services to continue, including transport for essential staff and for patients who need to be managed elsewhere. The nationwide lockdown is necessary to fundamentally disrupt the chain of transmission across society. I have accordingly directed the South African National Defence Force to be deployed to support the South African Police Service in ensuring that the measures we are announcing are implemented. This nationwide lockdown will be accompanied by a public health management program which will significantly increase screening, testing, contact tracing, and medical management. Community health teams will focus on expanding screening and testing where people live, focusing first on high density and high risk areas. To ensure that hospitals are not overwhelmed, a system will be put in place for centralized patient management for severe cases and decentralized primary care for mild cases. Emergency water supplies using water storage tanks, water tankers, boreholes, and communal standpipes are being provided to informal settlements and rural areas. A number of additional measures will be implemented with immediate effect to strengthen prevention measures. Some of these measures are that South African citizens and residents arriving from high-risk countries will automatically be placed under quarantine for 14 days. Non-South Africans arriving on flights from high-risk country we prohibited a week ago will be turned back. International flights to Lanseria Airport will temporarily be suspended. International travelers who arrived in South Africa after 9th March 2020 from high-risk countries will be confined to their hotels until they have completed a 14-day period of quarantine. Fellow South Africans, our country finds itself confronted not only by a virus that has infected more than 250,000 people across the globe, but also by the prospects of a very deep economic recession that will cause businesses to close and many of our people to lose their jobs. Therefore, as we marshal our every resource and our every energy to fight this epidemic, working together with business, we are putting in place measures to mitigate the economic impact both of this disease and our economic response to it. We are today announcing a set of interventions that will help to cushion our society from these economic difficulties. This is the first phase of the economic response, and further measures are under consideration and will be deployed as needed. These interventions are quick and targeted. Firstly, we are supporting vulnerable. Following consultation with social partners, we have set up a solidarity fund which South African businesses, organizations and individuals and members of the international community can contribute to. The fund will focus efforts to combat the spread of the virus, help us to track the spread, care for those who are ill, and support those whose lives are disrupted. The fund will complement what we are doing in the public sector. I'm pleased to announce that this fund will be chaired by Ms. Gloria Sirobe, and the deputy chairperson will be Mr. Adrian Enthoven. The fund has a website, www.solidarityfund.co.za, and anyone can begin to deposit funds into this account from tonight, acting in solidarity with South Africans who are vulnerable. The fund will be administered by a reputable team of people drawn from the financial institutions, accounting firms, and government. It will fully account for every cent contributed and will publish the details on the website. It will have a board of eminent South Africans to ensure proper governance. To get things moving, government is providing seed capital of 150 million rand, and the private sector has already pledged to support the fund with financial contributions in the coming period. We will be spending money to save lives and to support the economy. In this regard, we must applaud the commitment that has been made in this time of crisis by the Rupert and Oppenheimer families of 1 billion rand each to assist small businesses and their employees affected by the coronavirus pandemic. We are concerned that there are a number of businesses that are selling certain essential goods at excessively high prices. This cannot be allowed and this cannot go on. Regulations have been put in place to prohibit unjust price hikes, to ensure shops maintain adequate stocks of basic goods, and to prevent people from panic buying. It is important for all South Africans to understand that the supply of goods remains continuous and supply chains remain intact. Government has had discussions with manufacturers and distributors of basic necessities such as food and other necessities, who have indicated that there will be a continuous supply of these goods. There is therefore no need for stockpiling of any items. A safety net is being developed to support persons in the informal sector whose most businesses will suffer as a result of this shutdown. More details will be announced as soon as we have completed the work of assistance, and we will put those in place. To alleviate congestion at payment points, old age pensions and disability grants will be available for collection from 30 and 31st March 2020, while other categories of grants will be available for collection from the 1st of April 2020. All channels for access will remain open, including ATMs, retail points of sale devices, post offices, as well as cash pay points. Secondly, we are going to support people whose livelihoods will be affected adversely. We are in consultation on a proposal for a special dispensation for companies that are in distress because of COVID-19. Through this proposal, employees will receive wage payment through Temporary Employee Relief Scheme called TERS, which will enable companies to pay employees directly during this period and avoid retrenchment. Any employee who falls ill through exposure at their workplace will be paid through the compensation fund. Commercial banks have been exempted from provisions of the Competition Act to enable them to develop common approaches to debt relief and other necessary measures. We have met with all major banks and expect that most banks will put measures in place within the next few days. Many large companies that are currently closed have accepted their responsibility to pay workers that are affected. We call on large businesses, in particular, to take care of their workers during this testing period. In the event that it becomes necessary, we will utilize the reserves within the Unemployment Insurance Fund system to extend support to those workers in SMEs and other vulnerable firms who are faced with loss of income and whose companies are unable to provide support. Details of these will be made available within the next few days. Thirdly, we are assisting businesses that may be in distress. Using the tax system, we will provide a tax subsidy of up to 500 Rand per month for the next 4 months for those private sector employees earning between 6,500 under the employee tax incentive. This will help over 4 million workers in our country. The South African Revenue Service will also work towards accelerating the payment of employment tax incentive reimbursements from twice a year to monthly to get cash into the hands of compliant employers as soon as possible. Tax compliant businesses with a turnover of less than 50 million will be allowed to delay 20% of their pay-as-you-earn liabilities over the next 4 months and a portion of their provisional corporate income tax payments without penalties or interest over the next 6 months. This intervention is expected to assist over 75,000 small and medium enterprises. We are exploring the temporary reduction of employer and employee contributions to the Unemployment Insurance Fund and employer contributions to the Skills Development Fund. The Department of Small Business Development has made over 500 million rand available immediately to assist small and medium enterprises that are in distress through a simplified application process. The Industrial Development Corporation has put a package together with the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition of more than 3 billion rand for industrial funding to address the situation of vulnerable firms and to also fast-track financing for companies critical to our efforts to fight the virus and its economic impact. The Department of Tourism has made additional 200 million rand available to assist small medium enterprises in the tourism and hospitality sector who are under particular stress due to the new travel restrictions we have imposed. I want to make it clear that we expect all South Africans to act in the interests of the South African nation and not in their own selfish interest. We will therefore act very strongly against any attempts at corruption and at profiteering from this crisis. I have directed that special units of the National Prosecuting Agency be put together to act immediately and arrest those against who we find evidence of corruption. We will work with the judiciary to expedite cases against implicated persons and make sure that the guilty do go to jail. South Africa has a safe, sound, well-regulated and resilient financial sector. Since the global financial crisis, we have taken steps to strengthen the banking system, including increasing, improving liquidity and reducing leverage. With a strong financial sector and deep and liquid domestic capital markets, we have the space to provide support to the real economy. We can make sure money flows to firms and households. We can ensure that our markets are efficient. Last week, in line with the constitutional mandate that the Reserve Bank has, it cut the repo rate by 100 basic points. This will provide relief to consumers and businesses with the lower interest rate. The South African Reserve Bank has also proactively provided additional liquidity to the financial system. The governor has assured me that the bank is ready to do whatever it takes to ensure the financial sector operates well during this very difficult time. The banking system will remain open, the JSE will continue to function, the national payment system will continue to operate, and the Reserve Bank and the commercial banks will ensure that the banknotes and coins remain available. The action we are taking now will have lasting economic costs. But we are convinced that the cost of not acting now will be far much greater. We will prioritize the lives and the livelihoods of our people above all else, and will use all of the measures that are within our power to protect our people from the economic consequences of this pandemic. In the days, weeks, and months ahead, our resolve, our resourcefulness, and our unity as a nation is going to be put to a test as never before. I call on all of us, one and all, to play our part and our role as South Africans, to be courageous, to be patient, and above all, to show solidarity and compassion to one another. Let us never despair despite the challenges that our country is facing now. for we are a nation of one, and we are surely going to prevail. May God protect our people. Nkosi sikelela iAfrika, Morena, boluka setjhaba sa heso. God sien South Africa. God, do bless South Africa. Mudzimu kabapathucheze Africa. Hosi katekisa Africa. I thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jaka. All right, guys. Apologize about the no sound. Now, that speech that we've just heard is going to have a catastrophic impact on South Africa, and I'm going to just give you a few suggestions. The first one is that if you aren't a member of a Boer Legion or Saitlanders yet, that you actually join them. Can you hear me now, guys? I think I've got my sound on now. So if you're not a member of still not sound. Testing 1 2 3. No, sound is there. Okay, cool. So we got the sound back. All right. So the two different groups I've suggested that people join immediately. Do it tonight. Do it tonight. And here is the way you can join Saitlanders tonight on the internet. If you don't have a plan B, believe me, you are going to be regretting it. Now, when you look at Saitlanders and Boer Legion, they have two very, very different strategies on what people should do. In the smaller towns, I think Boer Legion have got it right. I think the idea of forming a community that can defend themselves in a small a township or a small village, that sounds to me like a really good idea. Now, Saitlanders, they have the idea of, at a set time, taking the community out of a city and to a remote area where they just sit down and entrench themselves. So, two totally different strategies, but clearly, guys, things in South Africa are going to go absolutely crazy now. I have to tell you that I think panic buying, I think when you go to the shops tomorrow, I'd love some people to take some video footage of their local supermarket, what's going on there. I think people can hear me now, Marka. Yeah, just take some video footage of what's happening in the shopping centres, because I think the shelves are going to be cleaned out. And that's why I've been saying for weeks to my subscribers that they should prep and have at least a couple of months supply of food, toilet paper and things like that. Rudy says, what if you don't have money? Rudy, you don't have to have money to join Boer Legion. If you go to their webpage, you'll see how you can do that without having money. And Nash, same thing. Okay, so just continuing. I have no doubt that tomorrow, when the shops open, there's going to be a huge run on everything. Yeah, I saw that, Fiona. Fiona, again, I think that have a look at the Burilixion website, because there you can join without actually having any cash or you know, paying any membership fees. Saitlanders, obviously, they do want some membership fees. Okay, so getting back to panic buying. The shelves are going to be empty before Thursday. That's the bottom line. And God knows when they're going to be full again, because as things get more critical and people get hungry, which is going to happen, I think it's going to be very difficult for trucks to come from other parts of the country into centers like Gauteng, because it's going to be a state of anarchy. I just feel that's what's going to happen. My advice to people who live in the city but are able to have moved to a rural area, or who have family, who have a farm or something like that, seeing they're talking about locking you down in your home from Thursday, I would seriously talk to those people out on the farm and see if you can actually go and get out of the city, because I think the city is going to be absolutely chaos. So my suggestion there is, if you are able to, if you've got family who are in a rural area or in a small holding, see if you can get out to be with them. And obviously I hope you've prepped so that you can contribute. Now, what I found quite extraordinary in the speech was Ramaphosa's suggestion that you know, it's going to be a safe isolation. How can it be a safe isolation when you've got 10 families, for example, living in a shack in one of those townships, and one of those people gets the infection? They're all going to get the infection. So clearly that's a load of BS that he's just said. The real panic is not going to happen so much in the white suburbs, but I think the townships are going to be absolutely catastrophic. I think it's going to be it's going to be awful. I really believe that, because clearly the way they've been running taxis in and out of these locations or townships over the last week while the infection's around, the horse has bolted. That's my view on that point. And while we're talking about isolation, what about Eskom? How are they going to run Eskom? Because they already have a problem when it comes to skills. If you get 2 or 3 people at Eskom who get the infection, they're going to have to lock down everybody. This is an absolute disaster. And this is why when Ramaphosa says in his speech that people should not panic and then there's no need for stockpiling of any items, wow, I don't know where he got that from. So guys, if you haven't prepped, I think it's too late, because I think those shops tomorrow are going to be full of people just cleaning out everything. Well, I hope you've got time. I'm not English tutor, because I think the horse is quite simply bolted. That brings me to another side. He's talking about all this financial aid that he's going to give business and people who are unemployed and stuff like that. Well, here's the wake-up call, and this is why it is a perfect storm. In less than a week, Moody's are going, without doubt, to push the rand to junk. When Moody's do that, people will, by law, I'm talking about investment houses, will by law have to withdraw the billions of rand that they've got invested in South Africa. They've got no choice. By law, they have to do that. So there's going to be a huge drain on South Africa's economy with this money leaving the country. And under those circumstances, how can the government support a crisis like this financially? They can't. You know, this is another area where I think Ramaphosa's talking out of a place where the sun don't shine. Clearly, that's a huge issue. And it was interesting because he talked about 500 million rand being made available to small businesses who failed adversity over this period. And he talked about several 100,000 small businesses. Now, you can do the math. You divide 300,000 into 500 million rand, it comes out at about 1,500 rand. Yeah, you heard me right, about 1,500 rand per business. That's like, with the inflation, or sorry, the value of the rand today, getting close to 20 rand to the dollar, that's like, what? 750, no, $75, like $75. How can a business operate on $75 for 3 weeks? I mean, this is where the math don't add up. And what I find very, very hypocritical in his speech was he talked about evidence of corruption. You know, people abusing their gratuity. In other words, abusing, for example, the business handouts and stuff like that. Well, what about the corruption that, you know, these top hanging fruits in the ANC have been participating in for 25 years and no one has been arrested? Absolutely hypocritical. So just to be cut it down to a very short perspective from my perspective, I suggest that what we've got happening now is going to be a state of anarchy. I think over the next few weeks, when people in the townships can't get food, it's just going to become absolutely crazy in those townships, and I can't see the army, and definitely not the police, being able to control them. I think we're talking about a critical situation. It's probably, look, I don't want to be someone who's just creating panic or you know, sort of giving negative news, but it's simple logic. When you look at what happens in the African community when they don't get what they want, they protest, they riot, they commit violence, they commit crime, they go out in groups. The white suburbs are just like soft areas to them. Now, maybe they've got a plan with the army and the police to try and create a distance or stop them doing that. I don't know, but that really is an area that concerns me, and I'm just flagging that because I want people to know that this could become the huge issue going forward in the next few weeks, so that you can prepare yourselves for something like that. And that's why I'm suggesting to people who can, seeing that you'll be in lockdown anyway, if you can get out to a rural area, out of the city where there are lots of townships around you, that's probably the best move to make. All right, I've babbled on enough. Are there any questions that people would like to ask me regarding what I've said? And guys, look, please become citizen reporters, okay? As I said, if you see your local shop is just overflowing with people, they can't even get in through the front door because there's so many people inside, do me a video. Send me that video. I will show the world what's going on. And he says, if it concerns you, Scott, surely Cyril Ramaphosa and his sidekicks should know about it, because I know it. This speech is because he's just been too scared to give it, and all those terrible things. At least an area can be set up in South Africa where the minorities can gather and protect, and let whatever happens happens. Oh, Andy, you're stuck there. You're not coming home for the foreseeable future. You're stuck in Egypt. That's the bottom line. Well, end of May you might be able to, depending on what happens. Lianka, Jocko, can you just throw my email address into the side chat, please? I think you're right, Annika. I think the police and the military have shown that they are quite happy to work with the criminals, and I think that's the scary thing. Oh, sorry, that wasn't Annika, that was Klaus. Well, Annika, what they decided was that they're going to go into lockdown on Thursday for 3 weeks, which means that you won't be able to leave your home. You'll actually be stuck in your home for 3 weeks. So I hope you've prepped. Paul says maybe the pool party must continue. Corona. Yeah, Mikkel, I agree. I think there's going to be an explosion of night gangs, looting, etc. And it'll start off probably with the shops and then move on to residential after that. You know, because once these guys get hungry in the townships, they're going to be looking for another food source. Renata, take care. Have you got family out in a rural area? Because that's where I'd be heading before Thursday. Rian, what Ramaphosa told us tonight left more questions than answers. That's basically what he did. Yeah, Jarko's just given my email address there in the side chat. Thanks, Jarko. Yeah, Mikkel, that's exactly right. And please just send me videos of what's happening in South Africa. I think you're right, Fiona. I think that the roads will become precarious for any truckie. They're large portions of open road that they've got to go along, and we know what's happened before this. I don't know what to suggest, Wolfie. I understand your situation. Yeah, Renata, that Jeffreys Bay is a small area. I would suggest you join Buralishion. I think they've got a branch there. I'm not sure, Wolfie. It depends on how crazy it goes. I mean, if somehow the government do keep control of things, which there's potentially they could. I've just given a worst case scenario, but you know the probability of that worst case scenario has increased dramatically tonight. I don't know if you're aware, but there have been quite a few tweets on social media with the blacks saying, "Oh, we don't have to prep because the whites have prepped for us. We'll just go and raid their homes." I think everybody else can hear me, Swift-Ricken. Guys, medicines are going to be an issue, and if you can stock up on your medicines, I suggest you do so as soon as possible. Really, that's what I suggest. Johnny, the most important thing, you're obviously the man of the house, the most important thing is you've got to join someone like the Boere Lishion or Saitlanders so you can have a plan B for your family. I wouldn't be surprised if Saitlanders or chapters of Saitlanders don't start actually telling their members to get together and move to an area outside the cities before Thursday. I can see that potentially happening because this is very, very dangerous territory. That's exactly right. Lally's raised a very good point. A large percentage of the South African National Defence Force have got HIV, and with lower immune systems they will get really ill when the virus comes calling. Renata says we're a small town and shelves have been empty already for the past week. Not all, but certain foods, etc. I don't think it's going to get any better, unfortunately. Fiona asks, do you think any of the African population will adhere to the self-isolation rules? I don't see how they can, unless they're like sort of middle-class Africans living in the white suburbs. If you're in a township, how do you achieve that? Because there are so many other people around you. You're living cheek and jowl. You're just cannon fodder for the virus. Nash, I'm not sure what to suggest. What I could suggest is that you go to Google and have a look to see if there are any natural remedies that might help your condition, because often they are. Oh, Jan says I'm on a group of my staff and they're all joking about it. Wow. Yeah, and the other important thing, Lianka, is not to tell people that you've prepped. Just keep very quiet, especially with your neighbors, because if your neighbors get hungry too, they might come calling as well. Misty says, please stop fear-mongering. We are just giving criminals ideas on how to harm us. Believe me, Misty, they have they've been talking about this in social media for days. I'm not giving any ideas to anyone. Yeah, Jocko says, God warned the ANC with the drought. Now he has sent a small virus. Let's see if they'll listen now. That's a good question, Rob. He asks, what about the private security companies? Or is it just like the army and police, do you think? I don't think so. But I think that they might well, under certain circumstances, basically join up with groups like Boere Lishion. Tace says, Scott, if Saitlanders start withdrawing, when they return to their houses, it'll be ransacked, occupied by some black family. Well, if that happens to your house, at least you saved the lives of your family. Because if they're going to do that, they're going to do it anyway. You just don't know. I mean, all I'm doing is I'm just saying, this is the safety route to take. Yeah, that's the ideal life, Jan. Fishing rod, tent, on the river far away. No rent-a-virus looking for dinner. Yeah, that's a critically important thing, that you don't brag about having prepped. You just keep it really quiet. Now, domestics, that's an interesting point, because obviously if they come from the townships, they won't be able to come and you know, do the household stuff that they normally do. So it might be a good idea to talk to your domestic staff tomorrow and just let them know what's happening. Shaka says, a huge farming community around my town. The Boers will look after us and we will defend the Boers. Well, that's good. Alright guys, we've heard what Hippo Eyes had to say, Cyril Ramaphosa. I've given you a few thoughts as to what I think people should do. Look, the crucial thing is that when you're locked down, you are by law not allowed to leave your house or where you're staying, and that's coming in on Thursday. And you can only leave your house to go and get supplies from the local shop or something like that, and that's got to be, again, controlled. Now, good luck with getting anything from the local shop, because I think the local shop or local supermarket, if it has anything left, I think it's going to be looted. I think that's it. I think that is going to happen, but I might be totally wrong, and I'm giving out the worst case scenario just so people can consider that. Oh, they've got no business in your house, Renata, but they do come visiting. That's the trouble. Alright guys, I'm going to sign off on this live stream very shortly. We heard what Ramaphosa had to say. You heard what I felt about that. Clearly I can speak my mind a lot more openly than other people can, because I'm in Australia. Please guys, just take care. Consider what I've said. I might be totally wrong, but you know, it's best you look at the worst case scenario and then consider what you're going to do in the event that it even goes halfway there. Yeah, thank you to all the moderators. You've done a great job once again. We did have a little Trojan come in here, but I kicked her out very quickly. So we'll catch up again soon. And Fiona, I hope to see you soon with Margaret and Carlo and the others. And thank you for the giving me the option to just get this live stream out the way. I think it's been a very important one. Okay guys, take care. Have a great evening. As I said before, please be safe, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.